and even the internet where people vent, and it, I think, prevents them from getting onto the street.
Yep. Well, I always say, you know, you may think you're pounding out some great resistance piece, but you're still in your room alone, and that's just where they want you.
So how do we get people, you know, away from their...
Well, before Occupy, I was sort of Mr. Doom and Gloom, you know. I mean, not that, you know, I think, you know, it's necessarily a great future, but I mean, the political consciousness within Occupy was very impressive, and so it's there, and I think we just have to keep working for it and hope that it ignites. And I think what we have on our side is a ruling class that has retreated into their version of Versailles or the Forbidden City, and they really have no concept of what's happening outside the walls of their compounds, which always throughout history creates a kind of volatile situation. So I think we can count on an utterly obtuse and tone-deaf ruling class, which will keep pushing and prodding and pushing and prodding, and that will trigger a reaction. I know that I have absolutely no doubt that there will be a reaction. When, what it looks like, that I don't know, but there will be one. And I just hope that we can harness the positive energies that I saw in Occupy to keep it nonviolent, to keep it inclusive, to keep it a movement that's not built around hate, but built around the capacity to nurture life.
When we speak out, when we are protesting, and we're shut out, and the blinders come up, what methods of revolt do you really feel fit our personal scale rather than the larger scale? What do you think is an appropriate way to speak out and resist against them?
Well, don't do it alone, because, you know, I was doing this before Occupy, and I would go down to Washington with Veterans for Peace and Code Pink, and always the same people, great, of course. I was in a demonstration in Lafayette Park in front of the White House. It was winter. It was a nice YouTube video of it, and the snow's coming down, and you know, there's about 400 or 500 of us. And the blues musician Watermelon Slim gets up and plays taps on his harmonica, and these veterans, many of them in their old, you know, jungle fatigues from Vietnam, are folding the flag that had been on the coffin of a young boy who'd come back from Afghanistan the year before, and then there's complete silence, and someone beats a drum very slowly, and it was up until McKibben's pipeline protest, was the largest mass arrest, I think, in 2 decades in front of the White House. 133, mostly vets in their uniforms, walked to the fence and where we were arrested. Now, you know, as somebody who spent a lot of time in war, it was deeply emotional, and many of us were crying. And, you know, it wasn't covered. The Washington Post never wrote about it. The New York Times never wrote about it. But it was, you know, being in that experience had a quality of empowerment. I would even use the word sacred. It was, you know, it was, for me, like a religious service. And I think that's true, and I think if you look at that video, if you go on YouTube, there's 2 of them, but find the one that begins with a picture of Daniel Ellsberg, because it's a little longer than, there's one of just my talk, but find the one where they're interviewing the vets. It's really moving. And, you know, you see this kid wounded twice in Iraq from the 10th Mountain Division in his dress uniform on the fence, and these people are having to cope with the atrocities that they witnessed and in many cases committed. And you walk away from an experience like that, even though you could argue that it didn't really change anything, deeply empowered. And so I think that you can draw from these acts of resistance the strength of solidarity and community that keeps you going forward. And I think the other thing that it's extremely important to do, and it's really the beauty of the last 2 years on this book, is you can't sever yourself from the oppressed. That when the oppressed become an abstraction, you become demoralized. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I teach in a prison, because I walk out that door, and you know, I can walk out that door, and these kids can't. And, you know, especially when you are in that prison and you find young men who are so bright and they want to learn so much, and they never were given a chance ever in their life. I mean, of course, that's what it means to be poor. You know, the rich, and I went to, I got a scholarship to a boarding school when I was 10, and so I lived with the rich for a long time, that's why I hate them so much. If you're rich, you get chance after chance after chance after chance, like George W. Bush. But if you're poor, you don't get any more chances. Nobody gives you another chance if you're poor. And when you walk out of that prison, not to resist becomes a personal betrayal to those people. You know, I'm often accused of being angry, and that would be true. I am angry. Because when you see that kind of suffering, as I did in Gaza or in the southern Sudan, how can you not be angry? Augustine said that hope has two beautiful daughters, anger and courage. Anger at the way things are, and courage to see that they do not remain the way they are.